Mrs. Tanuj Bhojwani, welcome to Interspecies movement in Atria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, your journey is truly fascinating. Starting with a technical background in chemical engineering at IIT Bombay, you took a significant turn by enrolling in the Young India Fellowship at Ashoka University. This seems like a unique transition. Could you share with us the story behind this shift and how it has been impacting your professional journey? What prompted this change and in what ways do you feel YIF has been a pivotal experience for you?
Sure. I think the IIT Bombay was the strange turn, not the other way around. Okay. Because from a very young age, I used to read a lot, right? My parents said, oh, you can't spend money on toys or whatever, but books you can buy anything you want. I took that up as a challenge, right? And would really just buy and get my hands on whatever I could and read about whatever I could. And when you're young, you don't have conceptions of this subject is more important, this stream is this or that, and you're just learning out of curiosity. I also happened to have a computer and the internet, and at that time these things were taking off when I was younger. I used to program for a very young age. My parents didn't know what to do with somebody who had taught himself coding, so they put me onto this NIT course which was meant for 18-year-olds. I was like 10, 11. So I used to actually genuinely enjoy programming. I used to genuinely enjoy reading philosophy, history, a bunch of things when I was younger. Of course, then you start learning, right, about the world, and you have these ideas or concepts that others tell you. Oh, you must do engineering, go to IIT, go to IIT, your life will be made, etc. And I obviously wanted to study computer science because that's what I knew. But the whole JEE and the ranking system, my rank wasn't good enough, but I wanted to stay in Bombay, I didn't want to go out. So I ended up in chemical engineering. But that university experience was, to me, it's obviously good, it was very meaningful, it was like, it helped me in a lot of ways, but it was lacking, right? And I've actually written about this. There's an article of mine you can find called What They Don't Teach You at the IITs. It was lacking in many ways. It was not university, it was a school, it was a particular discipline, and you're basically being trained to be one kind of thing. And everybody around you, I used to say jokingly, I went to college with 600 copies of myself, right? Everybody was the same. It's improved now, it's changed a lot now, but in our batch there were only 5% women. So out of 636, there were only 5%, like 36 women. So you do end up in a bubble, right? And therefore, post-college, when I realized, okay, everything I do is more of the same. You get a job in consulting or this or that or whatever, it's just more IIT, IIM, the same kind of people. You go to IIM, 25% of the batch is IIT, right? So it's just, I felt like I was just going to be in a bubble all my life. I didn't take that path back, right, to what I was interested in. And therefore, I went to Ashoka University at the Young India Fellowship, like you heard, to do a sort of multidisciplinary 1-year program in everything, right? It's we had a lot of social sciences, we had economics also, we had some business courses, we had a bunch of things going on. But most importantly, my batch and the people I studied with were diverse, and some of them, not some, many of them are still some of my best friends now, and I interact with them a lot. Both these university experiences had their own strengths and weaknesses. But I do think that going back to curiosity as that fundamental trait, right? And that's how I've lived my life after, because I did take a detour to what people told me was important. People were wrong. You should live your life by what drives you and what you want to do, right? What interests you.
Inspiring.
It's foolish, honestly. Not a lot of people.
Not really.
It's foolish. It is. Honestly, it is, in the sense that if I were to look back and say that, like, there was a very real point in my life at 26 or 27, most of my friends were buying houses because you get great jobs with great salaries or whatever, buying houses, cars, whatever. I was not just broke, I was in a loan, right, at that point in time, because I had done this and I had tried to start my own company and like done a bunch of things, so a lot of failures. I'm very glad for it, right? but also because I could afford it. I knew that I could just get back, and the IIT degree, for example, was very helpful in at any point in time I can go back and get a job. People will at least look at me, right? So I do think there's a certain amount of pragmatism also, but I do believe that if your heart is not in it, if your curiosity is not in it, you're going to be miserable one way or the other, right? So I could afford it because of the degree, because of whatever, because of other skills that I had that I knew could be monetized at some point. But yes, I do think it's important to live by your curiosity and not by what others tell you.
You have spent considerable time at iSPIRT, a non-profit that played a significant role in shaping the Indian startup ecosystem. Can you tell us about your experience at this organization and how it has impacted your perspective on technology and public service, of course?
Yeah, I started as a volunteer at iSPIRT. It was after my own startup had not done so well, and the reason it didn't do so well is because I was building and flying drones back in 2013-14. Then one day the government banned drones, and because they banned drones, like the business suffered, right? Like, and what do you do? So at some point, and I tried to work with the government, right? I had to go approach them and say, hey, I want to do this, etc. And I could make no progress. I also had trouble finding people or convincing businesses that I can, as a young, I was 24 or 25 then, to convince them to like, hey, can you this is the future and you'll do this, etc. It's very important for you, it will help your business, all of that. And I guess a lot of entrepreneurs will have this, where they're too early to a market at some point, right? The idea and everything is solid, but it's just the timing. Luck plays a huge role in many things. This is one of them. So when that got over, I said, boss, how do I go find somebody who's had more success with the government than I did? And at that time, I found this group, which is, was working on these hard problems like aadhar, eKYC, UPI, etc. So they were working on policy for technology. One could go volunteer with them. I started volunteering, even though, like I was telling you, I was not just broke, I was in debt, because in business, I owed my vendors money, I paid them, but nobody paid me. I started volunteering with them. It was one of the most transformational experiences that I've had. And therefore, otherwise before that I used to like change what I do every year, and now I've been here for 7-8 years in this ecosystem doing the same kind of thing. What I do now as People+ai is essentially I run a similar kind of model where we also as volunteers are trying to make a difference in this country. So the technologies I spoke about, right, UPI was part of the team that helped conceive and launch it in 2016. It's changed the game for our country in more ways than one, right? A lot of people today can do a business remotely because you can actually get money remotely. Otherwise, even if you're a skilled artisan or someone, right? Today, let's say you're sitting in first is, if you're in the city, you probably have a market. But let's say you're in a mid-tier, like a second-tier town, which could be, like a Indore or Bhopal. I hope I'm not offending anybody with those particular things being called tier 2, right? It's the definition in this country. And now think of that, now you're in like even tier 3, tier 4, right? Like if you're in, say, Kolar, somewhere else, right? Like where the market around you is not necessarily that large. But let's say you're a great artist. Today, you can put up your pictures online, send it by India Post, and accept money on UPI, right? So the opportunities it creates in this country for people, these kind of, when you take technology and instead of trying to say, I'll make $1 billion startup, I think it's better spent thinking, how can I make 1 billion people slightly more successful, right? Rather than me becoming a billionaire. And when you take that angle and you do work with that, it is very satisfying, which is why I've been here for 7-8 years in this space. And yeah, this is what I'm doing now also in People+ai. I'm asking with AI, how do you make 1.4 billion lives better?
Following up on that, you're currently leading People+ai with a focus on shaping an inclusive and impactful technological future. How does the principle of inclusion apply in your current role, especially in the context of artificial intelligence?
Okay. Let me, instead of trying to give you more high level this thing, I'll try to give you an example.
Yes.
A good example is that every scheme or welfare thing in this country, right, every governance issue, every whatever, is always top down, right? It is always somebody, maybe a minister, maybe a top bureaucrat, imagines an outcome, they design a plan, and then they go, and the people, the citizens, are, you know, the recipients of this program. They are told, here is this, or here is this, here is that. But what you really, and this happens because of the limitations of our capacity, right? The government can be only so many things to so many people, right? It can't be everything to everyone. So somebody's problem is my land is not fertile enough. Somebody else's problem is I want my kid to is educated, or like in a Bangalore or something, if you know you have someone with, say, special needs, right? There are services and stuff available to it, but as you go down to the real India, they're not going to have that service available everywhere, right? So these are the problems of the people are unique, but our schemes are designed sort of. What if tomorrow you can flip this around, right? Where the government can actually listen to individuals at scale and deliver what is needed to them, right? So my joke is, today we have Man Ki Baat, right, which is coming from the Prime Minister, and everybody is hearing it's a broadcast.
Yes.
But what we need is Jan Ki Baat.
Wow.
Right? You need to be able to listen to the people, understand their problems, synthesize what they need, and then deliver individually, right? Just like in Instagram, your ads, your feed, your content is targeted to you,
Yes.
but governance isn't,
Yes.
right? AI can help us do that. It's that simple. It is able to translate, it is able to understand at scale, synthesize at scale, customize at scale for entire population. So today you can hear or understand something in a language that you're comfortable with AI. It's a very good translator. It can translate from any language to any language, and it can translate from human to machine, right? And now you extend that a little bit to go back to your original question, is that can we therefore also translate to what animals need, right? Can we also translate to what we need to do to protect their ecosystems, etc.? I believe it's possible. Everything I'm talking about, you have to please understand with a little pinch of salt that everything I'm talking about has a timeline between 6 months to, say, 20 years, right? Every problem that I'm talking about today lies somewhere on that spectrum.
6 to 20.
Yeah, Aadhar started in 2009. We gave 2014. We gave 600 million people Aadhars. We gave about $1 billion in almost 6 years, roughly 5.5, 6 years. That was $1 billion. And then whatever, it took 7-8 years for everybody to have it. Then it took 4-5 years. These things keep getting faster and shorter. It took 4-5 years for everybody to open a bank account. So between 2013 and 17, or 2011 and 17, no, sorry, every other bank account opened in the world was opened in India, right? Only when everybody had a bank account could you do DBT, direct benefit transfer. Then the direct benefit transfer. Now in the pandemic, the US was sending people checks. In India, we put money in the bank account next week, right? These things take time sometimes, depending on the idea, but they don't take as much time as you think, right? If somebody had asked you, which is what I said on stage also today, is that in 2010, if I told you that, yeah, boss, in 10 years, every Indian will be paying on their cell phone, nobody will even look at cash or whatever, you would have said, no, what are you drinking, sir? You know, and but it actually happened in less than that, right? It happened between 2016 and I would say 2020, 21. I think 21, India became the world's biggest real-time payment systems in the world, and now, and by the way, we do more real-time payments than the next 4 countries combined, which includes China, right?
Yes.
And it's growing still 70% year on year. So these things take a long amount of time, and that's because the change is exponential. It's nothing, 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 and then boom, right? And therefore, even when you think nothing is happening, progress is so slow, exponential change is building up, and I think that's the lesson and belief that I've taken away from this place, which is why I'm still here, because so many things I started 3 years ago are not even halfway done, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Sir, additionally, in the light of our podcast theme on interspecies money movement, do you envision a future where artificial intelligence is not just inclusive of all humans, but also nature and other species?
6 months to 20 years. See, some things are much easier than you imagine, right? It's I'll tell you, when it comes to AI, it's so funny, right? A computer can now detect, right, whether something is a dog or a cat or a whatever, like very easily now, right? But ask it to, even a simple problem, right? Like, hey, is like spatial reasoning. In fact, like there's been some progress on that literally last week or 2 weeks ago, a paper came out, but saying, is this ball over or under the cat, right? It's hard. So the complexity of what is hard for a computer versus what is hard for us, right? I think we've not yet fully figured it out, or very few people in the world fully understand that. Lots of people said the game of Go would never be solved, right? And the reason why in 2017 this AI wave began was because AlphaGo showed that we could beat the world's best at humans using this new data. That's when interest actually revived in AI. So I would say that even the experts are wrong about, in fact, who expert? We're talking about a future that doesn't exist. Who's expert on a future that doesn't exist? No one. That's right. So these timelines vary, but there are solid steps that you can take along the way that have value in and of themselves, right? Similarly, like again, I'll go back to the things I know. Giving everybody an ID because they didn't have one. No, in India we don't have birth certificates. I mean, not everybody has a birth certificate. So giving ID to everybody was of value. Whether you did DBT or not, whether you did bank accounts or not, whether you did UPI or not, the ID itself was of value. And that's step one. Right? And then other steps will follow. Correct. Right? So that's how, if you think about this big problem in these small ways, we can make progress.
Definitely. In your roles with iSPIRT and now with People+ai, you have been deeply involved with both the policy and the practical aspects of frontier technologies like artificial intelligence. How should policy making evolve to effectively support the inclusive growth of these technologies? How do you see artificial intelligence policy ensuring a balance between innovation and ethical considerations and regulations?
See, I think even today we have to understand something, right? That the government itself is struggles, right? We are ultimately, let's face the fact, still a poor country, right? We are soon going to be the world's third largest economy in total. Per capita, we will still be somewhere else. And then if you look at the heterogeneity within the country, we have places that are richer, right? Like third block Kormangla would probably be richer than London, right? But there are places in lots of areas that are not doing so well. They should be poorer than sub-Saharan Africa, right? Per capita basis. So the idea is that a government's budget is our taxes. A country whose economy is not doing well does not have so many taxes. We are doing very well in getting our tax efficiency and whatever. It's growing very well. Our GDP is growing very well. Our market cap of all companies became 5x in the last 10 years. So there is all the signs that this economy is doing well. But the government is not the only answer, right? We have to figure out how to what is the best part of the government? Reach. The government is everywhere. What is the best part of the government? It is that it can, with a push of a button, turn something on or off, right? Ban something, start something, create a framework, give maybe some incentives. But you can't expect the government or the policy will fix everything, because the policy is just a framework around which you and I have to act, whether it's a business, whether it's a startup, whether it's an NGO, whether it's individual citizens. So I think the right thing to ask is, what is getting in the way? The government can remove that roadblock, but the emphasis, the force, the thrust will have to come from all of us. That's why People+ai, because it's not that AI will solve anything. It's what we can all do together. And I encourage anybody who wants to work on such a problem to come volunteer with us. It's easy to find us. Yeah.
As someone who has experienced a range of academic disciplines and domains through your education and work, What are your thoughts on the value of interdisciplinary education in today's world? Specifically, as Atria University is pioneering an interdisciplinary approach in India, do you have any insights or suggestions for us? What are your thoughts on Atria's approach towards education?
I think, look, everybody who's born today is slightly lucky, slightly unlucky. Slightly lucky because we know so much about the world. If you were born 120 years ago, penicillin hadn't been found, something scratched you, you would die. I mean, it's very likely, not always, but you could die from an infection, right? You're lucky in many ways because we've discovered this. But boss, the easy discoveries are gone, right? You can't invent gravity again, discover gravity again. Newton saw that apple, did his thing. So now you need to find knowledge and frontiers of knowledge and find expertise and niche. Also, you know, Google is everything. AI will answer questions that even you better than you. So if you want to find a niche, if you want to be successful, you need to know many things, right? So a idea of interdisciplinary is to say this is my field or I am just this and I am not that, and putting your blinders on is not going to get you very far in this world. So I think that the emphasis on interdisciplinary education is critical no matter who you are, no matter what you want to do. Because even in your field, the problems that need to be solved, the answer is probably happening somewhere in biology or somewhere in sociology or somewhere else. So go find that knowledge.
Thank you so much for the time. It's been very insightful answers that you have given us, and thank you so much for the time and the effort. We are looking forward to meet you again and in times like this, and we could actually use a lot of such insightful answers again, I guess. So thank you so much for being a part of this moment.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and I'm pleased back here soon.
Thank you.